As a Morrowind player, returning to Vardenfell recently, I was astonished by the scenery. The landscapes cater to my rose-tinted nostalgia goggles in a way that the original game unlikely could now. And from what little I've seen so far, The Elder Scrolls Online's rendition is a lore-friendly yet faithful depiction of the game that I grew up with. Listening to Vivek's questions in the first dungeon filled me with an embarrassing level of happiness, clapping my man-child hands like a seal, knowing exactly what they were talking about, in a way that a new to Vardenfell player could not. I imagine there will be much more fan service to come, and that's exactly what I wanted from this expansion. However, something here festers beneath the surface, some insidious infection that seems to pervade not only The Elder Scrolls Online, but also anything that Bethesda has released since the original Morrowind. The Elder Scrolls Online Morrowind is suffering from the worst of all blight diseases, Corpus Herotii, and it's got it bad. What I mean by Corpus Herotii is the game's narrative insisting on you becoming something special, some kind of hero, within the first 5 minutes. As if you cannot possibly be anything but. The big, oh for fuck's sakes moment came when I met Vivek himself within an hour of starting up the expansion for the first time. I quite literally dragged my sorry ass off of a ship, nostalgiaed my way to the first quest, spouted some garbage questions, and was all of a sudden deemed so almightily worthy to be granted an audience with the poetic fucking mortal god of Morrowind. And I may also add that within an hour beforehand, I was requested to appear in front of the great bitch Alexia herself, because of something minor note that I did half a fucking continent away. Herein lies my issue. This series has become so insistent on you becoming as renowned as possible as soon as possible, praising your fighting abilities, requesting your assistance, or otherwise kissing your proverbial posterior as soon as it hits your living room sofa. Whether it's being proclaimed the hero of Kavach or becoming the fabled Dragonborn, after playing the game for 5 fucking minutes. I understand this is somewhat of an exaggeration, but if you can sit down to play one of these sprawling, open-ended RPGs and unwrap the entirety of your destiny within a single session from tearing the plastic from the parcel, it may as well be 5 fucking minutes. What it does diminish is from a sense of accomplishment, a sense of having to work for something. In Morrowind, we knew we were going to be the Nerevarine. Right from the beginning. There's no other conceivable way that story can play out. But you don't get any recognition for this for a long time. I remember it taking me quite some time to meet Vivek. Not to mention those fucking trials I had to go through to get there, including drowning myself. And then some dipshit, 700 years earlier, just rocks up to some random ass ghost in some random ass tomb to ask some random ass questions. And then for some guy, it's just like, oh hey, thanks for that. You wanna, come to meet the mortal god of Vardenfell with me? It just doesn't ring true. Quite frankly, it is bullshit. And listen, I don't want you to get to thinking that this is me just being another one of those guys who's all like, oh, Morrowind was better. Because it's not just isolated to Morrowind. Any game that has a good come-from-nothing story starts off with you being essentially useless. Think GTA. Think Knights of the Old Republic. God, even think Fable. Even after you graduated from the guild, you were still a useless fucking chicken chaser. Fallout 3 had some sense of helplessness, right? Especially when first leaving the vault to chase after dear old dad, stumbling blindly into Megaton like some kind of naive stuffed animal. But in Fallout 4, I actually restarted my game, switching my character from male to female after first leaving the vault. Why? Because the veteran dad on a revenge mission is just fucking lame. He comes out of the vault ready to dust off his trigger finger and fuck shit up. It's so narratively weak that I terminated my save quicker than Arnie killed that goth douche in the lab coat, and I started again with the greatest bad bitch to ever walk the Boston wasteland. This all comes back to the model where the story is sacrificed for simplicity. Let's empower the player. They'll like our game much more if they feel they're good at it, so stick around to save the world, kiddo. The result here is a narrative that feels about as genuine and shallow as my ex-girlfriend. I legitimately cannot understand why companies make the decision to write these shitty stories. It's not hard to get it right. Is it the filthy casual phenomenon? I don't know. Maybe. Either way, it doesn't really matter. They still suck. Maybe I'll rant about this some other time. So, my point is the Elder Scrolls Online Morrowind gorgeous? Yes. Is it the world that I wanted to come back to? Yes. But it still bugs me that it seems to be played with the same hero-y bullshit that almost all of the rest of Bethesda's work since the original Morrowind. So, pick it up. Soak up the nostalgia, but acknowledge what it is and what it isn't. And don't expect it to give you what you really want. Kind of like screwing one of those hyper-realistic sex dolls. So I hear.